This is Mark Medley. I am the author of Live to See the Day, and I'm also the Globe and Mail's deputy opinion editor. I am making my Toronto Mike debut, and I'm thrilled to be here.
What up, Mike? Toronto.
That was perfect. I'm thoroughly impressed.
I'm in Toronto, where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto, where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto, like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1842 of Toronto Mic'd, an award-winning podcast proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online at greatlakesbeer.com for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Visit palmapasta.com for more. Fusion Corp's own Nick Iones. He's the host of Building Toronto's Skyline and Building Success, two podcasts that you ought to listen to. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making his Toronto Mic'd debut, it's Mark Medley. Nice to meet you, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me. It is so weird to be here.
Please elaborate. What is weird about being here?
I get to see where the magic happens. I mean, I've been listening to you for, years, and I have never seen the space. I'm sure you've posted photos over the years, but, I'm an audio listener.
You're an audio guy, right.
And so to be down here, surrounded by these relics and mementos.
Well, describe what you see. Like, I'm interested in seeing this space through your eyes.
All right. Well, my eyes went to the vinyl right away, especially the Maestro Fresh West. I'm trying to see what else you had. I'm a hip hop head, all right? I used to be a way, way bigger hip hop head. So I'm just curious.
They put them on a stamp.
I know. And Mishi Me.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. Well deserved. I'm glad Mishi got recognized. You have the Blue Jays. What year is that? Looks like late 80s, probably.
Oh, you're close. It's 86.
86. Did you just see the Joe Carter news?
Okay, I have a clip about that. I'm glad. See, we didn't rehearse. We didn't even talk, but I'm glad you brought up the Joe Carter news because I'm going to play a clip from Toronto Mic'd 2023. So we're going back 2.5 years or so. And this guest is Fergie Ulver.
Hey.
So let's listen to 11 seconds of that conversation. Canada Kev just wanted to say, take down that Ted Rogers statue at the Dome. I think a lot of people think, like, maybe put up a statue of Joe Carter or something. Why is Ted Rogers?
You're goddamn right.
That was Fergie Ulver delivering the "you're goddamn right" that was heard around the world.
Loves to see it. I mean, I'm surprised they're taking the Ted Rogers statue down.
They're moving
it to, I guess, Mount Pleasant, which is where it should have been in the first place.
Right.
Fantastic news. I mean, I'm not a day one Blue Jays fan. I'm only 44, but season ticket holder for a long time, and Joe deserves that. First of many statues, hopefully. My eyes are also, just looking at everything related to the show, the flyers, the GLB, signage. Octopus Wants to Fight, my favorite of their beers. This is great to be here. Thank you. It's weird, especially over the last 3 months. There have been, it feels like a third of your guests have been, in my life. And so it's kind of.
Do you have a list? I want to hear a few names.
No. I mean, I don't. I have a list in my head. I don't think I've gone through every single episode, but just kind of going backwards. My son did ukulele with Melanie, who was on a few weeks ago.
I'm gonna say longer than that, but it was probably early December, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Barry Hertz is one of my closest friends, and I work with him at the Globe.
Yeah, Barry was great.
You had Oren Weisfeld on, who I was emailing with today. He's doing something for me.
He ranked the top 10 Canadian basketball players of all time.
There you go. Ed Keenan, who obviously is, he needs the Toronto Mike statue as far as guests go.
Well, we have an FOTM Hall of Fame, and Keenan, he's this close. He's he's here every quarter.
He deserves to be there. But, he was
he's this close.
I owe him my career. He was my first boss. And I'm sure there's a couple of others that I'm forgetting.
Well, I know one that you're forgetting.
Who?
John Doyle.
John Doyle, of course, my former TV critic at the Globe for a long time, my former colleague. I haven't seen him in ages, but yeah, there you go. And now me. I'm kind of like, the least important of these folks, but it's great to be here.
You can say that. I would not say that. Like, people say something. I have Bruce McAuliffe coming over next week, right? And I'm a lifelong Kids in the Hall fan. And this is a big deal. I've been trying to get Bruce for a very long time. And some people are like, oh yeah, you're excited about Bruce. And I'm like, I'm excited about Mark Medley. Like, I don't care if you know the name Mark Medley. Like, to me, there is no hierarchy. It's like, I'm excited about each and every guest, regardless of their level of fame.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to talk to you. I would be here even if I hadn't written a book.
Okay, well, I'm honored to have you here.
Well,
it does seem, now that you mentioned the fact that Barry Hertz was here and John Doyle was just here and now you're here, I'm on a bit of a Globe and Mail run here.
You are, and I feel there had been the Globe kind of perspective had been missing.
Well, you know why? Because I grew up with the Toronto Star arriving every day.
So did I. I can't. I hope my bosses don't listen to this. But
well, they don't listen.
Yeah. I was a Star reader from the time I was 5-6 years old.
The Globe is a bit intimidating for a young person like that, and I feel like the Star was far more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, once you work at the Globe, you realize we don't bite, and it's a really, really mellow newsroom, and there's a lot of back and forth between people who have worked at the Star and worked at the Globe. I've never worked at the Star, but I have a lot of friends there. But yeah, no, I'm happy to be here waving the Globe flag for what it's worth.
No, love it. And I'm just going to throw a couple of names that I did have over that were Globe people, and these people have been over multiple times, but primarily because they wrote about sports. Like, that seems to be what would attract me back in the day. And I'm talking about Larry Milson.
I don't know Larry. I know the byline, but I think he had probably left the paper before I joined.
When did you join the Globe and Mail?
That's a good question. 2014, I want to say. It was right before, about a year before my first son was born.
Okay.
So I think I've been there 12 years now.
I had a son born. My son was born. I have a couple of sons, but one was born in 2014, so similar age. And then I had a daughter born in 2016, so we have similar age kids there.
Yeah, there's a gap between my eldest and my youngest. There's 5 years. My 5-year-old is a pandemic baby. I mean, we were expecting before the pandemic, but he came that first summer, so there's 5 years apart.
Okay, well, I could beat that, but it took me two wives to do it. But I mean, I'm thinking I got a 24-year-old and I have a 9-year-old, so.
I think we're done. I don't think I'm going to take that from you. You'll stay ahead.
Have you got the vasectomy yet?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't know you were here for the real talk.
No, this is really good. I did the consultation after Luke, my youngest, was born. I went into Michael Guerin and, had the examination and make sure everything is in working order.
Sure.
And then I didn't book it. And the reason I didn't book it was I was about to leave. I was about to leave for Sumatra for one of the trips I made for this book. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be hobbled while kind of hiking through the rainforest. So I put it off, fully intending to go through with it when I got back, and I never did. So now that you've put me on the spot for...
Well, I did it in 2020, December 2020. It was like a pandemic thing, but I got her done. But it was primarily because I didn't want to have 5 kids. Like, I was like, I can't stop making babies. I have to put a stop to this madness.
5 was too much. 4, you're like, that's okay. But when the minute you got to 5, you're like, no, I can't go any further. Here's the other thing. I probably shouldn't be telling this story, but I had a very dear friend who had a vasectomy that went very, very badly. And that threw the fear of God into me. And that was another reason why I haven't gone through with it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad you didn't tell me that story before December 2020. But only because we mentioned, 5 kids is too many kids. I just want to shout out the funeral director at Ridley Funeral Home who has 6 kids.
That's enough for multiple families. But
that's you can get a full a hockey team plus the goalie. Like, you got everybody on the ice at 6 kids. But I just want to give you, before you remark on that, I want to give you, Mark, for making your Toronto Mike debut, this is handy. Michelle McAdory swears by hers. This is a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home.
Hey, thank you
so
so
you
much,
finally
Mike.
earned, that's like a gold medal. We have Olympics coming up.
I will wear it around my neck.
Yeah, Flavor Flav. By the way, so we mentioned quickly I know this could be fun because my brain did a bunch of tangents off the top, but you saw the Maestro Fresh West 12-inch, and I love Michie Me and Maestro Fresh West very much. All listeners know that. They've been over multiple times. They're now on a stamp, including a band I never even heard of, a Quebec band that raps in French, so I kind of missed it. But when I saw Public Enemy in, I think, 2019, I want to say, maybe 2018. But I saw the last time Public Enemy proper played Toronto, actually. So I was there, and Chuck D brought both Michie Me and Maestro Fresh West on the stage. Like, it was quite remarkable to be there and to have them come on and do a verse or two. All of them on stage. All of my heroes now appear on stamps. So Chuck D, FOTM Chuck D, FOTM Maestro Fresh West, FOTM Michie Me. You're now an FOTM, Mark.
Thank you. Chuck D was really excited about the stamp news. I don't know if you follow him on X.
I follow. He did it on Blue Sky too, but I did get tipped off. Yeah,
which was nice to see. Yeah, the French band I never heard of. I expected, was it Dubmatique? They were like the big Quebec.
Start with an M.
Yeah. No. But that's the one I knew back in when I paid attention to Quebecois hip hop.
Right. But I never paid attention to Quebecois hip hop. So you're a better man than I.
There you go.
Okay, let's crack open our Great Lakes, and then we're going to cover a lot of ground here. So on the mic.
There we go.
And I got to get back to the other Globe guy I talked to before I forget, but hold on. On the mic. Okay, 3, 2. So cheers to you, Mark.
Cheers.
So you've got the premium lager. Thank you, Great Lakes Brewery. But you mentioned, because I guess you saw it on the wall, the Octopus Wants to Fight. What I've been drinking lately, here's a pro tip for the listenership. It's called Fighting Weight. And it's the Octopus, but lower alcohol. It's lighter beer. Because, these IPAs, some of these IPAs are pretty high, and you drink a couple and you forget who you're talking to.
What's the percentage on that?
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad I'm wearing my readers. I'm going to report to you right now that it is 3.8. So there you go. As we drink in dead air. Okay. I want to just say Larry Milson was at the Globe forever, covering Blue Jays baseball. And he's still covering Blue Jays baseball, but not for the Globe anymore. And I do see him when I go to Toronto Maple Leaf baseball games at Christie Pitts.
Yeah, my old neck of the woods. I lived right there for 3 or 4 years before we had kids, and there's no better way to spend like a Sunday afternoon.
You got it. And Larry lives right there too, so he comes to all the games he can because he just pops over. He likes to take his photographs, so I get to chat him up there. But I also got to shout out beloved FOTM David Schultz. Did you ever cross paths with David Schultz? No,
he left, I'm pretty sure, before I joined as well, but a legend in his own right, along with Larry.
Okay, so to wrap things up on this statue front, finally, Rogers has listened to me, and I played the clip there, and you're goddamn right from Fergie Oliver. Do you remember Fergie Oliver?
I remember the name. I don't think I ever saw him play.
You're just a kid. You're just a kid.
Thank you for saying that.
Okay, so I want to learn about you, and I definitely want to talk about Live to See the Day, and I will have, since we're drinking our Great Lakes, I'll let you know that you're taking home some fresh craft beer with you as well.
Hey,
Mark.
Thank you.
You're lucky you're here. You mentioned Barry Hertz. I guess you've known Barry a while. He's an old friend.
Yeah, we started out at the National Post together. We were both in the art section, for a number of years. I was there for about 8 years. He was there for maybe 6 before he went over to Maclean's, and then he came back to the Post. But yeah, he's probably my closest friend in Canadian journalism. And now we are publishing. It just so happened we published books within like 2 months of one another. We never set out to do that, but it was a nice coincidence.
And don't bury the lead. You both made your Toronto Mic'd debuts within months of each other.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Well, that's why you wrote the book.
That
right?
is why.
That's how you get in here sometimes.
Don't tell my publisher, but this is what it was for.
Because I'm going to have a Palma Pasta lasagna in my freezer.
Hey.
So you'll be leaving with that. Thank you to Palma Pasta. So Barry Hertz, I brought him up only because I follow Barry on Blue Sky. By the way, you mentioned X earlier. Like, are you active on X?
I still have my account. I still log in every day. I don't post that much, but it's a good way of kind of keeping tabs on the conversation, especially being like an opinion editor now. You want to know what people are debating and talking about. And even if it is a disaster zone,
cesspool.
Most of the time, a cesspool, it's a better way of putting it. I do find it useful. So I have not given up my account, but I hardly ever post.
So Barry Hertz was posting that he saw the Melania documentary.
He did not like the Melania documentary. His review did really, really well. We were talking about it in the newsroom this morning, and I think he struck a nerve. I mean, I don't know if anybody liked the movie though. That's the thing.
I mean, if you were like a Trumper, you might enjoy this piece of propaganda, right? But if you're talking to people who are not Trumpers, I can't imagine there's anything in that documentary that you'd find endearing or something you could recommend or something positive to take from it. It reminded me of, are you a Simpsons fan at all?
I'm a huge Simpsons fan, yeah.
It reminded me of A Burns for All Seasons.
Exactly, yeah. He's Senor Springfield.
Yeah, it was the Mexican equivalent, Spielbergo.
Spielbergo, exactly.
Yeah, so it reminds me of that. So it's got this. It's basically like it's like a propaganda film or whatnot. And
I mean, Brett Ratner, I think he deserves a little bit of respect. The Rush Hour movies are fun.
Yeah, no, I mean he's had some difficulty getting mainstream gigs lately.
That is it for good reason. Yes. But as a filmmaker, I don't think he's like the worst in the world.
Or there's that picture floating around, and I have confirmed with my sources it's not AI generated. It's a legit photo, but it's I guess it's Jeffrey Epstein and Melania and what's the director's name again?
Brett Ratner.
Brett Ratner sort of getting cozy on a couch, which is interesting to see the weekend that the Melania doc drops.
I would probably watch it like once it shows up on Amazon Prime. I'm not going to pretend I'm too good for it. Just kind of as a journalist, but as like a cultural artifact. Right. I think it's probably worth watching.
And I do recommend Barry Hertz's review, but it's interesting to see some people, like I think Michael Hollett as well, some FOTMs who had to go buy a ticket. And then you realize, because I'm speaking about Toronto here, you can see pre-sales of tickets. I know there's a walk-up crowd, but primarily people, I guess they book their seats in advance, and you can see, 3 tickets for this one, 2 for that one. I think they were all like journalists who had to review the documentary who paid to see that doc,
because they weren't giving press previews. I think
like Barry Hertz had to buy a ticket like a regular schlub.
I don't know if this is true, but there were screenshots going around last week before it premiered of, I think it was in Boston, Craigslist offers that if you bought a ticket, you would get $50 to sit through it. Don't know if it's true or not, but obviously there was concern that nobody would come out, which is funny now because it set like a record, like the best.
But that record, somebody pointed out that's some interesting. Like they said, it was like 10 years since a doc made that much, but are they completely ignoring the Taylor Swift documentary?
I think they must be.
I mean, it's like and also the amount of marketing dollars behind it. And I don't know who was going. I'm sure it was the Trumpers. There's enough Trumpers to get that kind of a number, I suppose. But they did spend, I think, something like $75 million promoting this thing. And your typical documentary has $0 behind the marketing efforts. So I don't know. I don't think it all depends how you spin it.
I don't think it's going to break even. At the same time, I don't think Jeff Bezos cares about making money on this doc.
No, I don't think that's. Yeah, it's almost like a laundering scheme of some sort, or some kind of a bribe effort. But I'm only Lauren Honickman just called me and said to say allegedly. So that's allegedly a bribe. I have no further knowledge on this. But I want to ask you before we get you there. You mentioned Post, the National Post, but. You are currently, and I know this from your cold open, you are currently the deputy editor of the Globe's opinion section?
That is true, yeah.
Can you tell me what that means?
So, I don't even know what it means myself. Pretty much the opinion team at the Globe handles all the columnists and, freelance contributors. My job specifically is to oversee the weekend opinion section. So I primarily work with freelance writers, but, I commission and edit essays and columns on every conceivable subject. And that is kind of what I do for a living right now. I don't write myself anymore.
I was going to ask you, do you write anymore?
No, I've written a couple of things recently, but no, the first half of my career was mostly a reporter, and then for the last 7 years or so, I've been in the opinion section, shaping the words of other people.
But do you miss being a reporter?
I do. I mean, one of the reasons I stopped being a reporter was because I wanted to write a book, and I felt, spending all day in the newsroom writing articles, when I got home, I'd be exhausted. Like I'd kind of exercised that brain muscle too much. So one of the reasons why I wanted to change, I mean, A, I just wanted a change in my career, but B, I knew if I was going to kind of devote however many years to writing a book, I needed to only work on that.
Okay, so what, and we're going to go kind of back. We'll pretend this is a Tarantino movie here, okay? But well, let's go to the beginning. I was going to ask what brought you to the Globe, but maybe let's walk through it a little bit chronologically here. Okay, so where in your life do you have this epiphany that, hey, I want to be a journalist? When does this inspiration strike you?
I mean, it strikes me, I guess, two different times. One was when I was doing my undergrad in English and history. I fully intended to go to law school.
You know, I did a double major English and history.
Yeah, there you go. And podcaster journalist. There's only so many things you can do.
Yeah, you can be a teacher.
When you have, and academia wasn't for me. I didn't have the marks for it.
Right.
But I remember studying for the LSATs in the library in Kingston, being like, okay, I don't think I can spend the next 4 years of my life in school.
Yeah.
And so I moved back home to my parents' basement in Oshawa, and I decided I was going to try to make it as a writer, right? Because it's what I had always wanted to do.
Well, I think this is how I ended up majoring in English and history, is that I could write.
Yeah, I could write and I like to read. That's literally the reason why I was an English major as well.
Right.
And so after about a year and a half of, working away on novels and short stories and not getting very far, I mean, I published a few things. I realized very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to pay the rent doing this. And so I applied for J School at Ryerson. What was then Ryerson.
Sure.
And I knew that, I might not get in. I'd never worked for student newspapers or anything like that, but they let me in, and the rest is history. I kind of did 2 years there, did internships at like iWeekly, worked for Torontoist, and then...
So iWeekly, is that where you...
that's where I cut my teeth. That was my first...
That's Ed Keenan.
That's Ed Keenan. That's where I met Ed, right? I got really, really lucky. This was 2005, 2006, right when I moved to Toronto after my first year at Ryerson. And I was kind of casting about for a summer job. And, as with most things, I kept it too late. I hadn't been sending out applications. And I was living at the kind of the south end of the village, like right near the old Maple Leaf Gardens.
Sure.
And iWeekly was on Church Street at the time, right at Bloor. And I walked up with my kind of resume in hand, and Stuart Berman, who was the EIC, I think even like the acting EIC at the time, was there. He let me in. And even though they had already had their roster of summer staffers, I don't know if he took pity on me or he saw something on me, but he's like, okay, you can work here for free for the summer, which I did.
How generous.
And, yeah. And it was like a really, really good cohort. Like Jennifer Yang was one of the fellow interns who's a reporter at the Globe with me now. The writer, like Megan Harrison, was there. But it was my first time ever in a newsroom, and it was, Stuart Berman, it was Ed Keenan, Damian Rogers, and it was like getting thrown into the deep end of journalism. And Ed actually, he took I don't want to say he took a shine. Maybe he didn't like me.
He's been known to shine on a person or two.
He took me under his wing. We would go out for dinners and drinks, and he'd kind of show me the ropes. And eventually he started letting me write. And those clippings got me my job at the Post the next summer. And then I never looked back.
Okay, there's a lot to chew on here.
Sorry.
No, I love it. Okay, so one thing I have a question for you as the deputy editor of the Globe's opinion section, okay? When you're referring to somebody who graduated from the institution currently known as TMU, do you refer to it as Ryerson, or do you refer to it as TMU, even though at the time it was known as Ryerson University?
So if I'm talking to somebody my vintage, I say Ryerson. But
no, I'm sorry. I mean, when you publish into the Globe, like
no, TMU.
So because I was always curious, like if somebody graduated in '95 from, I don't even know if it was a university in '95. I think it was still like a Polytechnical Institute, right?
Yeah.
I was at U of T, so we were thumbing our noses at these Rye High grads. But if somebody graduated in '95, you'll say that this person graduated in 1995 from TMU.
Yeah, I think that's the way we would do it.
I was always wondering because when we refer to who starred in Juno, we will say Elliot Page starred in Juno.
Of course, yeah.
We're not going to dead name Elliot Page. And I wondered if the same would apply to a bricks and mortar institution.
I think, well, with the history of Ryerson and the reasons they changed the name, I think, we want to treat the institution the way it wants to be seen. And so even though there's a lot of grumbling, and I have friends who work there who don't like the name change, and privately they still call it Ryerson.
Sure.
When it's in print, we'll call it TMU.
Okay, I wondered what the Globe standards were there.
I might have just made that style ruling myself, but thinking back on anytime...
Well, it's a good question, right?
It is a good question, yeah. But no, it's TMU.
Because I'll refer to a certain app that we already talked about. I'll refer to it as the app formerly known as Twitter.
That's how we do it as well. Yeah. I mean, for the first year after they changed
we're
over
dead
to X,
naming X.
You are. I mean, I don't mind dead naming anything
Right.
Elon Musk is involved with,
Right.
but TMU is a little different.
Okay, the real talk here. Now, so what is it? So we get you now at the National Post. So it's been a while since you worked for the National Post.
It has been, a dozen years.
Actually, but you know what? Before I get there here, what a terrible host. He
No.
can't decide where he wants to go with his new fresh meat in the basement. And I think I did disclose this of Michelle McAdory last week. I've had an interesting run of guests who either took too long to get here, so I had to cancel them, had to postpone, like Bruce McCullough postponed, or I canceled for a variety of personal reasons. I canceled a guest. And and my guest on Friday just never showed up. He blanked on it, and he was in Aylmer, Ontario.
You get ghosted? I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah. So
it's such an honor.
I know. I've been ghosted, and you know what? David Bronstein just simply I don't know. He just got a call from a bagel shop who said, "Come here and do some social media work. We're going to pay you cash," and he kind of pushed me off, and then he was going to be 2 hours late, and I don't know what kind of a operation he thinks I run here that I could just carve out 6 hours for a 90-minute chat, but I had other shit I had to do. So we eventually did that. But all this is to say that I'm just kind of glad to have a real person in the TMDS basement studio right now. So I'm just glad you're here.
Well, there's no way I was going to stand you up, Mike.
Well, I was worried when it got to 158. I was like, what? Am I being stood up again? But here you are. Okay. iWeekly, before we get to the National Post, iWeekly, do you run across a FOTM Hall of Famer we know as Mark Weisblot?
I certainly do. That was my first introduction to Mark. I don't remember if he was still a writer for iWeekly at the time. He probably was. But one of the things we had to do that summer, our cohort of interns, it was some kind of anniversary for I. It might have been the 10th, it might have been the 15th, but what they were doing was some kind of retrospective. And what we were tasked with doing, kind of crazy in retrospect, was to go through the entire archives. And I don't remember the marching orders Ed or Stuart gave us, but we had to read everything that I had ever published before for some reason. They were doing a special
it's
issue.
EYE, not you
Exactly.
personally.
And I remember coming across Mark's columns and reading them for the first time probably. And then, it was another probably decade, well, not a decade, probably another 5 or 6 years before I met him in person. But yes.
Yeah, my first Mark Weisblot encounter was hearing him on Humble and Fred's show. I believe it was the Mojo Radio iteration, but we're going back either, I want to say early 2000s. But just hearing his delivery style and taking note of how interesting it was. And then I would, he'd publish, one was with Torstar, but he would publish blogs, the Better Living Center, and
Yeah.
one starts with S, Scroll.
Scroll.
Yeah, but these are all as a fellow blogger, I was searching for similar-minded, like-minded content creators out there doing the Lord's work in the blogosphere, and Weisblot was one of these chaps. So once I started this thing, I somehow convinced him to visit, and the rest is history.
I mean, he's one of the pioneers of kind of the digital media space in Canada. I sing his praises to almost anybody when his name comes up because, a lot of people know him, but I think a lot of people don't know him. And you look back over his CV and the stuff he was doing was always 3 or 5 years ahead of what the legacy media was doing. And, you can see he kind of would bounce from place to place, put down roots, kind of, show them a different way of doing things and then go off to the next thing. And, his career is really, really, it's fascinating, but I think he doesn't get enough credit for, some of the innovations and some of the ways of seeing he kind of introduced to Canadian journalism. I haven't seen him in quite a few years, but, I'm still in touch with him, but
Sure.
I haven't seen him face to face.
Yeah, he still comes out to the odd TMLX event. We have these Toronto Mike listener experiences, and he comes out to these.
And that's the other thing. He was such a gadfly. I met him before I worked with him, just kind of he would be at random events I was at. And, you once you've met him, you don't forget him. And so it was only after that we actually were quasi-colleagues. He was at Canada.com when I was at the Post. It was a different floor, but, we all ran in the same circles.
Right, and of course he is a FOTM Hall of Famer, so the world might not be recognizing the genius of Mark Weisblatt, but that is not true here in our TMU, not to be confused with the TMU we talked about earlier. I'm referring to the Toronto Mike universe, where we do sing the praises of Mark Weisblatt on the reg. So I just wanted to do a little Weisblatt chatter when I saw you were at iWeekly.
Cheers to Mark Weisblatt. Yeah, he deserves it.
Yep, absolutely. We'll get him back in the basement one day soon. Okay, the National Post. So it's been a while since you've been there, but I'm just curious, like, what you think of the Post today, because Post Media, this is, I believe, to be a fact. You can fact check me, Robert Lawson, but Post Media is majority owned, I think like 63 to 66% or something, by a U.S.-based hedge fund, Golden Tree Asset Management and Chatham Asset Management. And of course, the Chatham Asset Management people are well known for their very close ties to the Republican Party in the USA. So you got Post Media, and under that umbrella, you mentioned Canada.com, that's under there. But of course, National Post, Financial Post, and a little paper that grew, the Toronto Sun. What are your thoughts on that before we get you to the Globe and Mail?
Yeah, I mean, the Post is a different place from when I worked there. I had some qualms, and I was kind of hesitant about taking a job there in the first place because politically, the politics that the paper portrayed weren't necessarily ones I shared. But again, I was like 25 years old. I needed a job. Right. I was not going to, beggars can't be choosers. But the funny thing is, I remember getting there and one of the first things I realized was the staff themselves are quite liberal. Like one of the first jokes it wasn't even a joke, but there was a federal election soon after I started up, and a senior editor kind of pulled me aside and said, like, we're all going home to vote for the Greens and the NDPs. And this is somebody who, today, if that came out, I think we'd probably get in trouble. So the place itself wasn't that conservative, even if that was kind of the paper's editorial bent. When I was there, it was still owned by the Aspers. So, it was still, the power center was in Winnipeg. The sale went through while I was there, I'm pretty sure. But, I didn't notice any kind of foreign, they weren't trying to like meddle in what we were doing. You
didn't get a memo or something?
We didn't get a memo, but again, I was in like the arts and culture section. I was mostly writing about like musicians and books and movies and stuff like that. So we were probably like the last people to get affected. I mean, they cut back on the amount of arts and culture coverage that the paper was doing. Like I remember I think they killed the standalone art section, and Barry Hertz and I were just aghast that they were doing this. And so we arranged a meeting with Paul Godfrey, who was still running it. And the two of us, we had no business going into his office to basically, point our fingers in his face and say, you made a terrible mistake. But we did.
Wow.
And it was very obvious. He had never read what we were producing. He kind of like patted us on the head and said, oh, kids, go along. You can still write about your reality TV once in a while. And we didn't change his mind at all. And I think shortly after that is when, I started looking for work elsewhere.
Well, here's a small world story. So I mentioned going to Toronto Maple Leafs baseball games at Christie Pitts, and that team is co-owned by Paul Godfrey's son.
It was at Noah?
Rob, I want to say.
Rob Noah one of them? Yeah. No, one of the Godfrey sons was tangentially involved in the Post. This was kind of like at the height of like startup culture. They started something called Post Media Labs. And they actually rented out office space on Richmond. I remember we were all very, very jealous because, the Post never had a lot of money at the best of times. Once I was there, and they rented out this space on Richmond, and they seconded a bunch of people to the labs. And basically the idea was to start a journalism startup. It didn't get anywhere in the end. I think it only lasted a couple of years, but one of the Godfreys was involved in that somehow.
Small world. It's a small world after all here. Okay, so you're a books editor?
I eventually became books editor. Yeah, by like my last 2 or 3 years there, I was still writing, but they gave me the fancy title of books editor because they couldn't pay me. Okay,
and were you cut because they got rid of such silly things as book editors?
No, I was never cut. I mean, okay. I was approached by the Globe to do the same job for my current paper, and I couldn't turn the opportunity down. And the thing is, like, the Globe had just moved the Post had just moved from Don Mills to Bloor Street, where I think they still are housed. But the year had been, a lot of my colleagues had left for other places. Steve Maurice, the former editor-in-chief, had been let go. And so there was a long period where there was really nobody running the newspaper at all. And then Anne Marie Owens came in back from Maclean's, who I was very, very close with and who I loved. But it was kind of, for me, too little too late. I'd already been talking to the Globe at that point. And so, I jumped. It was kind of, I didn't know if I'd ever have another opportunity to work at the Globe, and, jobs in media at the best of times are so hard to come by. I couldn't turn it down.
Yeah, there's so few of them, and there's fewer all the time, I understand. So I totally get that. But so we mentioned your current title, Deputy Editor of the Globe's Opinion Section. It rolls off the tongue. Does that even fit on a business card?
There are no business cards anymore. If there were, Deputy Opinion Editor.
We'd have to short that sucker. Okay, so, but before that, you were a culture reporter. You wrote about music, film, and television, theater.
Books. Yeah, everything.
And of course, books. But this is the fun fact, and I only know this fun fact because you pointed it out somewhere. I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or whatnot, but you point out the fun fact. You're the only person in this entire country, you're the only person in the world who served as books editor at both of Canada's national newspapers. True or false?
That is true. I mean, I don't know how
it sounds impressive to me.
It does sound impressive. I mean, then again, there's only been about 5 people who ever held the National Post books editor title. Noah Richler, Sarah Murdoch, myself. I'm missing a couple. So there's a very, very small pool of people. The Globe has a much more storied history when it comes to that role. But yeah, I did the job of books editor at the Globe for a couple of years again before deciding I didn't want to write anymore.
Okay, and any encounters when you're writing about music, for example, any encounters with FOTM legend Ben Rayner?
So Ben is another, when we were talking about people who have been on the show, who kind of my life has crisscrossed with. When I was at Ryerson for our second year, I think feature writing class, we needed to profile, I don't know if it was a Torontonian or just somebody who meant something to us. And I chose Ben.
Wow.
Yeah, because again, going back to the Toronto Star, I grew up reading the Star.
You and me both, buddy.
Him and Betsy Powell were kind of my guiding lights. Like, I wanted their jobs, right? Before Betsy left to do a crime, which she still does, I read everything they published. And so I decided I was going to profile Ben. And, he didn't know who I am. I don't even know why he responded to my email. But,
well, he's a sweetheart.
He is a sweetheart. But again, I didn't know that at the time. But, just some punk kid saying like, hey, can I interview you and write about you for class? Like, he has better things to do. So, yeah, no, I think we went for beer or Chinese food. I don't exactly remember what the contours of the interview, but yeah, no, I wrote a profile of him, which was on the Ryerson journalism website for quite a few years. It's probably done now, but like I remember, learning about all these other interests he had that I didn't know, that didn't come through. Aliens. I mean, probably half the profile. I should have looked it up before coming here. It was about aliens, and he was writing a novel at the time about aliens that I really, really want to read and wish. I don't know what happened to it in the end, but yeah, he was just a fascinating guy.
He loves his aliens so much.
I love aliens so much.
Do you?
Yeah.
Now, I know I'm going to say something and then I'm not going to say anything more about it because I don't want to spoil this film because it's a new film. I'm just going to throw into the universe that on the weekend I watched Begonia.
Yeah,
throw it out there.
I want to watch it. It's not available like on any of the streaming services I subscribe to yet. Like, you still need to rent it. So I'm going to wait until it's on, Crave or Netflix or whatever.
Lauren says I shouldn't comment on where I saw it. So
I have heard it's not good. Like, I'm going to watch it.
Okay, so I'm here to tell you I liked it very much.
Okay, I think I'm going to like it.
So this director who works all the time with Emma Stone, but he did Poor Things, which is a movie I loved.
I loved it, yeah.
But then the next one, which I always forget the title of, actually, I'll have to Google it, but I hated.
He's done like 4 in a row with Emma, hasn't he?
Yeah. Like, she's his muse.
Yeah.
He's the Greek guy, and I find him very interesting as a director, actually. But again, hit and miss, because Poor Things was amazing. The follow-up with Jesse Plemons in that one, or Plemons, I don't know how you say it.
Plemons, yeah.
He's shed a lot of beef, by the way, for Begonia. You won't recognize him. Like, he looks like he lost, 70 pounds or something. It's unbelievable. But okay. So just to wrap up this thought, though, whatever it's called, Better, Bad, Good. I can't remember the name of the film after Poor Things, except I hated it with a great passion. And then this Begonia I liked again. So he's either awesome or I can't watch it. So that's where we're at with that. But I do highly recommend Begonia.
Aliens, yes.
Aliens. Okay. So shout out to all the extraterrestrials listening here. Okay, so I want to get to Live to See the Day. But of course, I'm so interested in all this. So
I'd rather talk about aliens.
Well,
Don't
we
get
got to
me
talk
wrong.
about. Well, I personally, I don't know. It's a vast universe, and I can't pretend to know what's out there. I'm sure the odds are we can't be the only living species in the galaxy. But I don't believe aliens are here.
No, I wouldn't go that far. But yeah.
So, do you believe humanity? We've ever encountered an alien?
No, I don't. I don't think
we're not so far
I don't think there's been any kind of aliens on the surface of the planet. I think best case scenario, or maybe worst case, depending on what they want to do with us, is that they have sent probes and they are aware of our existence, but they are letting us, develop and evolve, and just like we would watch, gorillas in the wild. They're watching us right now. But that I think maybe is a bridge too far. I mean, you look at the vastness of the universe. I mean, that's the thing. I have the 5-year-old, and he's getting to the age now where he's asking all these questions about outer space. He's obsessed with outer space, and he looks at the moon and he says, is that as far as space goes?
Right.
I'm just like, you have no idea. I showed him the opening. Have you seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster? Yeah. The opening scene, one of my all-time favorite opening scenes, where it pulls back and shows the radio signal as it kind of transmits and floats through outer space. And you really realize like how tiny and insignificant we are. I showed it to him, and I think I kind of like broke his brain a little bit. He didn't really understand. It's a lot. It's a lot.
If you dwell on it, it can kind of
And so when you look at that, and that again is just like a fraction of of what the universe is. I think it's impossible that we're alone. I don't want to be alone.
Okay, well, you're not alone right now. I'm right beside you,
Mike.
brother. And I'm going to thank a couple of partners, and then I have a song that's going to introduce us to the Live to See the Day segment. Can't wait to get into it with you. But I do want to tell people that if you buy heart-shaped pasta from Palma Pasta starting today, when does this? It's for the entire month of February, so you've got about 26 days left here. But if you buy the heart-shaped pasta, it's delicious. Palma Pasta sells it in February. Proceeds from every purchase will support Hospice Mississauga and the compassionate care that they provide in the community of Mississauga. So this is a delicious way to give back. Get your butts to Palma Pasta. Get yourself some heart-shaped pasta for Valentine's Day, and you will be supporting Hearts for Hospice. It's a great cause. But what I have for you, Mark, of course, is a lasagna. So you got to get your own self to Mississauga or Oakville to get you that heart-shaped pasta.
I will keep that in mind.
Not Valentine's to be confused with heart-shaped box. That's a different thing there. Okay. Yeah. It's always a good Valentine's Day treat to pick up the heart-shaped pasta. Okay, and I also want to remind the listenership that recyclemyelectronics.ca is where you go if you have old electronics, old devices. You don't throw that in the garbage. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your postal code, and find out where you can drop it off to be properly recycled. You got that, Mark?
I will keep that in mind. Thanks.
Write that down. Okay. And last but not least, much love to Nick Iones. He put up his hand and said, Mike, how do I help support Toronto Mic'd? He said, I don't always agree with your political stance on this, that, and the other, but I love respecting your right to express it, and he loves the community, the TMU that I always refer to, Toronto Mic'd Universe. He comes out to the events, and Nick Iones cut a check every month to keep this going, and he's got a great podcast I highly recommend. It's called Building Toronto Skyline. So check out Building Toronto Skyline with Nick Iones. He's also got Building Success, and he is a beloved FOTM. Are you cutting a check to be here, Mark? Yes or no?
I didn't bring my checkbook, but
do you have a checkbook?
I don't have. No, I do. I haven't touched it in 5 or 6 years. It has probably 3 addresses ago on it. But I'll e-transfer you.
So you said you're 44. Did I hear that? Or?
I am.
Okay, so I'm just thinking because I'm married to a woman born in 81. So
that's me.
Okay,
that's me.
So that's all my references. So you won't get 60% of my references or my jokes, but maybe that's
wait. How old are you? Can I ask?
51.
Okay, I mean that's not. When did you get to our age? Is that much of a gap, really?
Yes, it's a bigger gap. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, when did you first surf the web?
Probably like 91,
Yeah,
92.
wait, what are you in? Like grade 4? What are you in?
Yeah, grade 4 or 5. I mean, I remember both my parents were high school teachers, and the school, they taught at the same high school. The school got it before we did. And my mom, who for a while was a computer teacher, would bring me and my brothers to her computer lab.
Right.
And that was like my introduction, going, not Googling, but
Alta
web crawling, Alta
Vista,
Vista.
sure. Asking Jeeves.
Nintendo games and stuff like that. That was my introduction.
I ask that question because I think that's significant. So what's interesting about my age, born in 74, is my first experience on the World Wide Web was at the University of Toronto. So I got through all of high school without touching it. Now, I know it was around, it just didn't kind of get to a place where I was invited to partake, if you know what I mean. So, so basically, if you can get through high school without seeing the World Wide Web, I think that's a differentiator right there.
I wonder if my kids are going to talk about AI the same way we talk about the internet. Like, are they going to be like my 10-year-old? Is he going to be telling his kids about, I didn't interact with AI until I was 10 or 11 years old.
Double digits, man.
Exactly. I didn't get my own personal agent until I was 12 years old.
Yeah, I'm pre-slop.
Pre-slop.
That's what we'll say. We'll say, I'm pre-slop. So
hopefully.
we'll see where that goes here. Okay, I have a song to segue us over here. So I picked the song because of your book. So here we go.
Change the oils and oil the squeaks, patch the holes and fluid leaks at dusk beneath a diabetic moon. And wait to take the TV cruise across the creaking ice. The news is howling to the timber wolves, and soon I'll go through it all again. Watch their doubtful smiles begin. But the visions that I see believe in me. So praise the things
Won't go through it all again. Watch their doubtful smiles begin. When the visions that I see believe in me. Name that band, Mark.
That would be Winnipeg's favorite sons, the Weaker Thans.
I hate Winnipeg. Yes, the Weaker Thans, and this song is called Bigfoot. And I thought this might be a nice little transition. You wrote a book, brother.
I did, and it's lovely you played that. I was getting a little verklempt because I love that.
Please cry. I have Kleenex here.
Well, I don't know if I'll go that far. I have a very cold heart, but no, I mean I've loved the Weaker Thans for 20 years, and that song is very meaningful to me. And it just so happened that it provides one of the epigraphs for the book. That line that you just cited it fits completely with what I was trying to do with Live to See the Day.
So why, and this will help us explain, because I don't think we've yet explained what Live to See the Day is about, but why did you write this book?
I wrote this book because I'm interested in the idea of spending your life in the pursuit of something you will never accomplish. I mean, it would be like you interviewing folks knowing they were never going to air, right? Like, would you want to do that? Or even preparing for an interview that you're never going to do.
Or like we talked about aliens, but isn't it a little bit like trying to communicate with extraterrestrial life? Like these are like impossible goals that people pursue.
It is. And I mean, the first chapter in this book is about SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, for a reason. There's a reason why I love aliens and I'm a space geek. It's because for my life, the thing I've wanted to see before I die more than anything is not publishing a book. It's not, being successful as a journalist. It is finding out whether or not we're alone. And, that is just a fascination for me. But there are people in the world who have dedicated their careers to answering that question. Not many of them. There's only a handful of people who do this for a living because there's not a lot of money in alien hunting. But they do it regardless because they know it's a big question. They know it's an important question. And What I was trying to do with this book is kind of cast a wide net throughout, not just, science or politics or art, but to try to kind of, sit down with people like we're sitting down now and get a sense of why they've decided to spend their lives, all their waking hours into pursuit of something they know they're probably not going to accomplish, right? It would be like running a race knowing you're never going to finish it. You're never going to cross the finish line.
But you finished this book. So how long did it take you? Well, you
Barely.
did. I know you did because I'm holding it in my hands right now, Mark.
It's
so
AI.
oh, please. No, it wasn't sloppy enough to be AI. How many years did it take you, and how many people did you sit down with to interview?
It took me 7 years. I did my
Really?
Okay.
I would have taken the under. That's amazing.
So I did my first interview for this book in January 2019. So seven years from last month. I spent about a year finding out if I'd be able to turn it into a book, right? Like I had the idea, impossible goals, dedicating their life to something that might never happen, but is there enough to sustain a book? So I spent about a year doing preliminary interviews, talking to people, around the world. After a year of doing that, I decided, yes, there probably is something here. I sold it to my publisher in the right tail end of 2019.
But is it tough to sell a book when you have no books in your repertoire? Like this is your first book.
This is going to sound really egotistical, but like I have enough of a track record, let's say, right?
I'm Mark Medley for God's sakes.
People, I've worked for the Post, I've worked for the Globe. I was the books editor, so I know a lot of people in publishing. I had a leg up. I'm very, very aware.
You were born on second base.
I was born on second base when it comes to Canadian publishing. But
you thought you hit a double.
I thought this book was going to take me 2 years. I think the actual original contract said first draft fall of 2021 and it'll come out in 2022. And then the pandemic struck. And for 2 years, it was very, very difficult to travel, to leave your house.
Right, that's important. This wasn't completely Zooms. Like you're actually leaving your house.
Well, I mean, as a journalist, I like to talk to people face to face. Like Zoom is great. And, I am somebody who's kind of done a 180 on Zoom. I hated it. And I hate it now because, I equate it with the pandemic. But it served its purpose when I was going down to my basement every day to talk to people in Italy or Indonesia or across the United States. We didn't have any choice. But I knew I wasn't going to be able to do the book I wanted to do unless I went to visit them where they work. I mean, there's another version of this book that exists where I did it completely based on Zoom interviews and phone calls, but I don't think it would have had the same kind of texture. It wouldn't have felt the same to me. And I know, even if readers wouldn't have known, I know it wouldn't have been the best I could have produced. So I waited until we could travel safely. I mean, there was a bunch of other hiccups. As I mentioned, we had a kid early in the pandemic.
Kids ruin everything.
We found out my wife was expecting a week after I sold the book. So we thought, we were one and done, which is why I felt comfortable.
So this was a surprise.
It was kind of a surprise, yes.
I figured that early.
And then, there was just other things, work. My mom was sick. There's just all these things that came up that kind of pushed the book down the road. But, once the world opened up again and I could travel, I started to do that. And then it took, about 3 years of research, a couple of years of writing, and then here we are.
So this is fresh. Like it smells like it was just printed. When did this book become available to buy?
Oh God, January 6th.
Okay, Jan 6th.
Just
The insurrection. Ed Keenan was at the insurrection.
I know. I listened to it. Yeah, I insisted on that day. In my support of Trump, I said it has to come out on January 6th.
Oh, I thought it was in your support of the CFNY documentary that debuted on TVO docs. By the way, if the Globe wants me to speak to some interesting stuff I've learned about the creation of the CFNY docs, just let me know, okay? I'm out here playing journalist in podcast land.
We'll talk about that offline.
Because that's a Jan 6 event as well, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I'm going to ask you about a woman, because you mentioned politics a moment ago. Liz White. Tell the listenership, who's Liz White and why is she significant in your decision to write? And I'm going to read the full thing this time. You ready? So it's called Live to See the Day by Mark Medley. But there is like what's that called? A subtitle?
It's a subtitle, yeah.
Okay. Impossible goals, unimaginable futures, and the pursuit of things that may never be.
You can't get that on a business card.
That's poetic, though. I like that. Did you write that, or did ChatGPT write that?
No, that was me. That was actually, we changed the subtitle at the last possible moment.
What was it going to be? I'll tell you which one's better.
It was going to be called, okay, I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but it was going to be something like Studies in Perseverance, Encounters with Obsession, and the Pursuit of Things That May Never Be. And it didn't quite, I can't remember why we ended up changing it. I think it was too long. And Kate Sinclair, the designer of the book, and I love the cover, she felt it would be too wordy. And so I had like marching orders to cut it down, by 3 or 4 words, which is why we ended up with this one. I like this one, even if you personally like the old one, I'm happy with where we landed.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think this one you chose is good. But real quick, because you mentioned you were a hip hop head back in the day, but are you a fan of Classified?
I am. Yeah. Welcome to the Maritimes.
Welcome to the Maritimes. Because he's been over. His name's Luke.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a Luke too.
I got a Luke too. It's funny. I mean, it just struck me now because it's not on my CV. I mean, I started as a journalist, as a hip hop journalist, writing about kind of Canadian hip hop.
Well, we should be talking about that.
I would love to talk about that.
I've been working on getting the Dream Warriors over here for years because Joel Goldberg directed those early videos, and he's promised to deliver them, and he's yet to deliver on his promise.
Yeah. I mean, my Toronto, like I grew up in Oshawa, but from the time I could hop on a GO train and skip school, me and my best friend would come to Toronto, walk Yonge Street, and like hit up, play the record, Tracks, Far Side for clothes. Like that was what, and then, when I was like 17, 18, I started like writing for like, Canadian hip hop sites, interviewing people. Like, I mean, Decisive's been on the show recently. Like I interviewed Derek, right? Yeah.
Derek Christoph.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's where I kind of like really started to write, but
even
much
the opening
different.
theme is Ill Vibe, and he's in that circle too, Illy. But sorry, you were in the middle of a sentence.
No, I was going to say the stuff I did back as a teenager is very different from the book you're holding.
What about the great artist? I loved this guy, Kish.
Been
Order
Around the
from
World,
Chaos.
something around
that's
the
on
world.
There. That's on there. It's Order from Chaos. It's the disc, and Around the World in 80 Days.
That's right. And Chaos. I mean, I'm from Oshawa, and
he's
Chaos
like
is in
Whitby,
Oshawa. Is he a Whitby? I think Oshawa claimed him.
Okay, Oshawa can.
Don't take that away from us, Mike.
He's another guy I've been working on getting. But the reason why did I bring up Classified? Oh yeah, because the title of your book is "Live to See the Day," and for some reason I can hear in my head when I read your title, "The day doesn't die." You remember that? The day doesn't die.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's a bit later. But you're the one you quoted, Maritime. So that's actually from my favorite Classified album, which is called "Boy Caught in the Industry."
I remember. I probably had that on, not on vinyl, but I would have had that on CD. Classified. I mean, he's still at it. Like,
he's still working. He's still hustling.
And he's worked with like DJ Premier. Like he's done he's had a really, really good career when you look back on it.
He did a song with Snoop Dogg.
I mean, Snoop Dogg's done a lot of features for everybody, but I'm not going to take it away from him.
Because he's a big cannabis guy, Classified. So there's your hook in there. But yeah, like he's done stuff with Maestro, of course. But okay, so maybe we'll do another episode about Canadian hip hop because
anytime.
I love talking Canadian hip hop, absolutely. But Liz White, okay, so that's right. We did a tangent, but we're back because you're going to tell me who is Liz White. And how did she inspire this book somewhat?
So, from Kish
is she a rapper?
White, yeah.
By the way, Kish is now a voiceover actor in L.A. And the best deep dive interview you'll ever find with Kish is a Toronto Mic'd episode we did.
I'll go check that out. I've not heard that one.
And you'll find out what he made for his what I thought was a pretty great album, Order from Chaos. I would watch the Much Music videos. I own that disc, and you'll find out what he made from that project.
So Liz White is a politician here in Toronto. And the story goes, in 2008, when I was still fairly new to the National Post, there was a federal election happening. And for the Toronto section, which was kind of like attached to the culture section, so, I wrote for that quite a bit, I pitched the idea of profiling a no-hope candidate. I didn't want to, profile, I think Ignatieff might have been the Liberal leader. Like, not that I would have been allowed to do that, but like my way of helping out with kind of the election coverage was to profile somebody running for office who knew they weren't going to win.
Right.
And I was living downtown at the time, Toronto Centre. Bill Graham, I'm pretty sure, was the MP at the time. And Liz White, I've been seeing, I guess, signs about her for a party that is now called the Animal Protection Party of Canada. It had a different name back in 2008. It was like Environmental Voters Party of Canada. I should know this, but I forget. And Liz, for whatever reason, said, yeah, okay, you can profile me. And so she invited me to kind of like hang out with her at the party headquarters as a talk strategy. I went out on the campaign trail with her in St. Jamestown, went to debates with her. And I profiled her, and it was the cover of the Toronto section, the weekend before the election. And I loved the piece. I got a lot of good feedback about it. And it remained kind of one of the pieces that like I was most proud of. And I was right as well. She got like 80 votes or 90 votes. And, most people experience a drubbing like that. They might run in the other direction. But the thing with Liz is she kept running. Like almost any time there was an opportunity for her to put her name on the ballot, you would find her name on the ballot. Not just in Toronto Centre. Like she ran across not the GTA, across Toronto, sometimes Etobicoke, sometimes, East Toronto. And the other thing is, like, it wasn't like the party was getting more and more popular.
By the way, the name of that party was the Animal Alliance Environment Voters Party of Canada.
That is a name. But thank you for looking that up. It's
in your book. Your fine book. I highly recommend. Live to see the day.
And so I kind of kept tabs on her. Every time there was an election, I would like look her up the day after to see how she did. And it wasn't like she was getting any more traction. 110 votes, 130 votes. Nice. And it just struck me after a while, after like a decade of watching her, along with a couple of other pieces I had written over the years that thematically were the same, that there could be a book in this, that there could be other people like Liz White here in Canada and maybe around the world who are spending all this time and effort and energy in the pursuit of something they know they'll never accomplish. Because that's the thing about Liz. I mean, she's a very, very smart woman. She's very, very dedicated, very determined, very empathetic, and she's her heart is in the right place, but she knows she's never going to be sent to Ottawa. And I think again, right before the pandemic, I had a coffee with her and I said, hey, I'm thinking about this book. Like, do you mind if I use you as the jumping off point for, these adventures I'm going to go on? And she gave me her blessing. I mean, I would have probably done it even if she had said no, but she was like, yeah, go ahead. And
she's like, why do you think I ran all those times?
Exactly.
Trying to get your attention, Mark.
There you go. Yeah. And so there you have it. She kind of gave me my marching orders and off I went.
Go write this book.
And she was at the launch a couple of weeks ago. It was lovely to see. I hadn't seen her in a few years.
Is she running for mayor?
She's not running. She's never ran municipally, I don't think, because for her to get the kind of work done, to kind of make the changes she wants to make, animal testing or the seal hunt, things like that, she needs to have power. She needs to go to Ottawa. Right. But no, she just ran in the last election as well last year.
Right.
I can't remember exactly offhand how many votes she got, but not many. She's still at it.
So does she ever answer the great question, why do you run, Liz, considering you have a 0% chance of winning?
She would say, why not? And she would also say, if I don't do it, there's a chance no one else will, right? She believes in the mission of the party so fully and so passionately that the results are secondary, right? Like she wants to...
Right. The goal may be impossible, but it's the journey that... is important to her. Maybe there's a debate or something that she gets invited to, maybe, or there's peripheral awareness potential.
And she would also say that, yes, she's being invited to these debate stages. She's getting to share her perspective, share her policy ideas. And there's a chance that maybe some other party will adopt, one sliver of what her party is
she's
proposing.
doing something.
She's doing something. She's
doing nothing.
She's pushing the boulder up the hill. And, even if it's going to kind of fall back on her, she's very happy to keep pushing.
It's easy to sit at home, drink your Great Lakes beer, eat your palma pasta and just watch everybody else doing something.
And that's part of the reason why I wanted to write this book as well. Like I am somebody who procrastinates. I am somebody who kind of gives up on their New Year's resolution a week after January 1st.
Right.
I'm somebody who quits easily the minute there is kind of pressure exerted against whatever I'm going.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are like that. One of the reasons I became a journalist was because I like to see the results of my labor. I loved when I was a reporter to go into the newsroom in the morning, get my assignment from my editor, write it up, and it would be in print the next day or a couple of days later, right? And I could go to bed knowing that, yes, I achieved something, and here's the proof of that. And the people in this book, aren't seeing the proof of that, and they're okay with that. Like, it's not even that it's going to be impossible. In some of these chapters, it is possible, but it might not happen for tens of thousands of years. And they're like, digging out the foundation of an edifice that's not going to be completed for, centuries, millennia from now.
Yeah, so I want to point out that we get a bunch of great stories, right? Like, so there's one story I'll ask you more about, but there's a story, Ron Feldman is in your book, and his hunt for the lost Dutchman's mine.
Yeah, Ron is a treasure hunter. Like, when you close your eyes and you think of, like, what does a treasure hunter look like?
Crocodile Dundee.
It's Ron Feldman. He's like the American version.
All right.
I don't know if was Crocodile Dundee a treasure hunter?
No, I know.
More like
no.
But, this is a guy who, cowboy hat, gun on his hip, often on a horse. He's from Buffalo originally, which is really, really interesting. But he moved out to California when he was a teenager, and then he moved to Arizona shortly after that. And the Lost Dutchman's Mine is one of those legendary American treasures that may or may not exist, but he has spent upwards of 60 years in the desert, not in the middle of nowhere. Like, he lives in a town and his family's there, but looking for this thing that he very much knows he's never going to be able to discover or prove exists.
But does he know that? Like, that's the thing.
He knows that. He knows that because he thinks he knows where it is. That's the thing. For him, he is pretty sure, gun to his head, he could point you in the direction where the treasure is located.
Yes, the
problem is that it's government federally protected lands that they're not going to allow him to dig. So it's like perfectly convenient for him that he can say this is where it is, but we're never going to be able to say one way or another whether that's true. But like his fellow treasure hunters in the community, they think he's out to lunch, and they all have their own theories as to where it is. And so you have this kind of community of treasure hunters all thinking they're the ones who know the secret, and none of them are ever going to be able to prove it.
Okay, I'm going to throw a couple more names at you, and there's a lot of great stories in the book. But Richard Thorns is chasing an extinct pink-headed duck.
He is. Richard might be my favorite person in the book. He's a guy who lives in a small town about an hour south of London, England. And he was basically spending his life working as a shop's assistant. So he was working in a clothing store, in the men's department, selling socks and underwear and shirts to folks in the community. And one day on his lunch hour, he went to the local library and he discovered a book called Vanishing Birds by a biologist, Tim Halliday, I think his name is. And he brought it back to the lunchroom. As he was eating his fish and chips or whatever, he came across the story of the pink-headed duck. And the pink-headed duck is a real creature. I mean, it existed in the world up until the mid-20th century when it is believed to have gone extinct. For whatever reason, Richard decided it wasn't extinct and that he would be the one to prove it is still out there in the wild. He has no scientific or, he's not a biologist, he's not an ornithologist. He would be like you or me deciding we are going to go find this extinct bird. But he has dedicated, the last couple of decades of his life to searching primarily in Myanmar, which is a very difficult country, A, to travel to, and B, to work in, to try to prove it is still out there.
Well, it will always be Burma to me.
Exactly. He still calls it Burma. He's a proper Englishman. And so, for the book, it's kind of like the Ryerson TMU. I would always have to...
Oh, I'm glad you brought back the Ryerson TMU, because I have a special correspondent, Chris Ward, is on the live stream, live.torontomike.com. And Chris Ward says that Ryerson became Ryerson Polytechnic Institute. No, sorry, I got to revise this. Ryerson became Ryerson Polytechnic University in 1993. That graduating class, which was his graduating class, were the first ones to have university on their degrees. So he's not sure what year they dropped Polytechnic, but that's interesting because my first year at U of T was 1993.
There you go.
So if I'd gone to Ryerson, I did, but I could have had university on my degree.
The life you didn't lead.
The life, so close, so close. Okay, so I want to ask you a great question on our way out here, which is this line. So I'm reading your book, and we could celebrate particularly with Liz White or Jeremy Holden. There's another name, like he's chasing a mystery ape
Yeah, he's the reason I didn't get a vasectomy. He's the guy in Sumatra who has spent 40 years looking for this creature that science says doesn't exist. It'd be like the Indonesian version of Bigfoot.
Right.
He's a really interesting guy because he's a really renowned photographer. He's worked with conservation organizations, and I think National Geographic has published his stuff. He's not a kook. Right. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, but he claims to have seen it in the early 90s and has spent basically the rest of his life trying to get it on film. To the point where at the expense of family and relationships and what he says is any semblance of a normal life. Like he has spent, I went to his camp in the rainforest for a number of days, and he showed me how he searches and where he thinks it is. He knows though he's probably never going to do it, but he's okay with that.
But okay, so there's a thin line between love and hate. You know this, right? But there's a thin line between patience / determination, where this is going to take a long time and you need to be committed. I say committed, that's the wrong choice of words actually. But but there's a thin line between this patience, this determination, and delusion. Like, at what point are we like, okay, this obsession with the with this goal that cannot and will not be achieved, that's destroying the rest of your life, and that is a very unhealthy thing. Like, where is that line between patience, determination, and delusion?
I've come around on delusion a little bit.
I think I'm
pro delusion because I think delusion.
You're a Leafs fan.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not at all.
Okay.
So let's strike that from the record.
Okay.
But until last year, I was a Blue Jays fan, and it might have been delusional to envision us back in the World Series. I mean, delusion is the thing that I think allows us sometimes to begin the race, right? Like, you need to be delusional to start pursuing some of these goals that I write about, because otherwise, like, if you were completely rational about it, you would never start. And I think one of the things that I realized is these people have lived like fascinating, to me, envious lives, and they wouldn't have experienced the things they've experienced.
Well, they wouldn't be in your book.
They wouldn't be in my book, but they wouldn't have, like, the thing that Jeremy put it to me is like, yeah, his life has been a life of failure, and yes, he knows people like roll their eyes when he tells them what he's doing and probably laugh behind his back, but he wouldn't have had this kind of like beautiful, weird life if he hadn't had some degree of delusion. So, like, I don't think delusion is necessarily the worst thing in the world, especially if you're only like, quote unquote, harming yourself, right? It would be one thing if he had, children that he was ignoring because he was out in the wilds, right? He's not like that. Like,
he never did get that vasectomy. Oh, he got the vasectomy and it didn't work. Am I crossing stories?
No, that's less.
Because you said he's the reason I didn't get the vasectomy.
He's the guy. Les is the guy who's trying to bring about the extinction of the human race. But close.
We crossed our lines here. But okay, so it sounds like the real treasure is the friends you make along the way.
It is.
Is that the final line in the book? Hold on here. The real treasure was the friends we made along the way.
If not in the paperback, it will be. No, I mean, to be cliche, I mean, you touched on this earlier. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And for the people in this book,
I get that.
They don't care about the destination. I mean, they do, right? Like, as much as they told me, they don't care if they discover aliens, they don't care if they discover this treasure. They're only concerned with, like, the joy that their search brings them. Like, obviously they would love to see it, but it's not going to erase the lives they've led.
So it sounds like, if I don't need to read between the lines to hear you say that sometimes delusion is a positive quality.
I mean, you have to be delusional to write a book, right?
See, but here, so let's break it. So I love the book and I love these stories. I love reading about Richard Thorns and Jeremy Holden, and of course Ron Feldman and all these chaps, and of course Liz, who I'd like to meet. So
you should have her on.
I know.
She'd be great.
I talked to Liz. I never met a Liz I didn't like. Okay, so we have the book Live to See the Day, which is you decide you're going to write a book, but that to me is an attainable goal, and you accomplish this goal because it's attainable. And I personally am big on goals. Like, I remember the day I decided, hey, what if I targeted 1,000 cycling kilometers in a month? Like, I remember thinking that was nuts, and then I thought, well, it's attainable. And I did it. And then I hit one month I hit 1,500 kilometers. Like, so I do set a lot of goals, and the goals I set are all what I think are realistic, attainable goals. And they're difficult and tough, but I can do it because they're attainable. But I'm not achieving a goal of like, one of my Toronto Mike guests is going to be an extraterrestrial. That, you know what I mean? And Ben Rayner is going to help me get this person on Zoom or whatever. But so I'm not like delusional. If I am, will the listenership write Mike at torontomike.com if I am becoming delusional? Because I think the listeners will know before I do. But I try to stay in the real world with my feet on the ground. But I'm missing out on some of the wonderful aspects, the positive qualities of the journey to the impossible goals.
The thing is, you can have the delusional guests on the show, like me, right? And others who will...
His name's Mark Medley, everybody.
Who will scratch that itch.
Whoa, you're offering to scratch my itches. Now I'm very interested here. So I need to know here on the way out. So I'm going to tell the listenership to get their hands on this well-written...
Please do.
...interesting book with a variety of stories, many we didn't touch on, but Live to See the Day by Mark Medley with a great subtitle, Impossible Goals, Unimaginable Futures in the Pursuit of Things That May Never Be. Is that you with the parachute here? That's not you.
It felt like me. I felt like that the entire writing process, that I was going to let go and plummet to my death.
Well, how? Because you'd live to tell the tale. You're here now. Like, you going to write another book? Do you hate that question?
I mean, I'm not sighing at you. I'm sighing at the thought.
Yeah, because you just gave birth to this one, and I'm the asshole asking you about the next one.
I mean, I'm under contract for another book, so I need to.
Do it about a guy who did 2,000 episodes of a podcast in his basement.
I mean, listen, when you were starting out, that would have probably felt impossible to you, right?
Right,
like 2,000 is wild.
But attainable impossible. Like it wasn't a delusional goal. It was just a ridiculous goal.
Yeah, some of the people in the book probably felt it was attainable when they started out. Right. It's only now they realize that's not the case.
Well, if you do have another book, I'll have you on to talk about it. Might have you on anyways. I feel like you would be a great candidate to kick out the jams on Toronto Mike. We play your 10 favorite songs of all time and talk about it.
Anytime.
How's tomorrow? 2 p.m.
If somebody ghosts and you need like a last minute.
Oh, it's been happening a lot lately, Mark. You have no idea. Well, thanks for this. Like, I loved chatting with you. You're currently at the Globe, and you've got a book under your belt now, and I'll be watching you closely as a valued FOTM.
Love it. Thanks, Mike.
Was there anything on your drive here, or on your journey here that you said, I hope I get to tell this, and then you're realizing now as I'm playing you out that you didn't get to tell that?
We'll save that for the next
sequel?
appearance. Yeah, I gotta hold some things back, otherwise you're never gonna have me again.
You're smart.
Yeah.
Did Wiseblot give you that tip? Okay, I'm gonna play again the Fergie. You're gonna say a Wiseblot thing there?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, I thought maybe I don't want to miss any Wiseblot gold here, but I am gonna play this clip one last time. Canada Kev just wanted to say, take down that Ted Rogers statue at the Dome. I think a lot of people think like maybe put up a statue of Joe Carter or something. Why is Ted Rogers?
You're goddamn right.
I love the way, and we talked about, some, Brett, I can't remember the name of the director of the Melania.
Brett Ratner.
How come I can't remember that? Did he direct X-Men?
He did, I think, The Last Stand.
Oh, the second. Oh, okay.
I don't think he did the first one.
Okay, not the first one.
Bryan Singer, another problematic director. That franchise has been,
Later, I'll tell you about the nasty emails I get for having Fergie Oliver on the show. We'll talk about that offline as well.
Who hates Fergie? That doesn't make any sense.
I'll tell you after the show.
All right, okay.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,842nd show. It's a lucky number, 1842. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. And much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. I thoroughly enjoyed my fighting weight. Octopus Wants to Fight. How was your lager?
It was delicious. Perfect thing for a Monday afternoon.
I've got your Palma Pasta lasagna in the freezer. Thank you to Palma Pasta. Nick Aines, much love to you. I'll see you Friday morning. RecycleMyElectronics.ca, of course. And Ridley Funeral Home. The podcast is called Life's Undertaking. Brad Jones. He's in Cambodia right now, but he'll be back for the next episode. We'll find out how his trip was. See you all tomorrow. I'm running out of song, and I don't know the next guest. Mark, the Globe would never make this mistake. Oh my God, how much time do I have? Where is it here? My next guest is... I'm going to do it in the post because this thing's taking forever to load here. Michelle Crystal was married to a broadcaster named Andrew Crystal. They were married for a very long time, and Andrew Crystal very suddenly died. He's actually the first guest of Toronto Mike ever to die.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know, it's terrible. And Michelle Crystal is going to chat with me Wednesday about her late husband, and then we're going to share some audio from the very first day of Mojo Radio 640, which featured, well, Humble and Fred were on that station, as was Mike Stafford, but also Andrew Crystal. So all of this Wednesday. I'm out of song, but I'm not out of ideas. See you all Wednesday.